And I've worked with the organs. I was talking to someone the other day, I think 65, so but nearly 45 years now. So I'm so used to the quality of the organs and the different energies of the different organs and the potency behind it and how it relates to the Kundalini. But I think when I teach it and when I talk about it, it might leave people a little bit missed on, oh, what's that? What's he talking about now? How do my organs breathe? How do my organs feel? Why have my organs got all these different energies? And that started because I met a guy called Rudy, who later on, I was a sannyasin, and this Rudy figure turned up, invited by my Tai Chi teacher. And I've never met anyone with that kind of energy before or since. I mean, I was with Osho, who was an enlightened master. Well, I think he was an enlightened master. But Rudy just had this phenomenal energy. You just come near him and you'd be in a different reality, really. And when we'd do healing, quite often he'd just come behind me and he'd just run his fingers slightly up my spine, and the energy was just zoomed. The vertebrae would adjust and align, or if for some reason we would meet a lot, even when we weren't working together. And I was in Oregon. We had a ranch there, Sannyasin Ranch, which we were trying to build our new race in Rajneeshpuram in Oregon. And for some reason, out of all of the thousands of people there, I ended up working together in a team with Diraj, and it was just us two, and we were driving around in this van and mending things and doing different things. And just talking to him, you know, my spine would adjust, I'd feel all of these different things. He was an amazing being. And always after that, because he worked with the organs through sound, used sound. Each organ was a different reality, each organ was a channel, each organ had a different psychology. Most people resonated from a particular organ and had the qualities of that organ. So I was kind of brought into that very early on in my career. I got involved in sannyas, I took sannyas, and within a month I was working with Diraj, who wasn't a sannyasin. He became a sannyasin later. He was called Rudy, then he got called Diraj. And I think something of that got carried through in the holographic breathing. He died, and I was saying goodbye to him. I dedicated my Tai Chi classes to him. Because I had, every day I was teaching a couple of classes of Tai Chi, and I was a bit choked up that it would die, and I'd start teaching, and because I was choked up, so I dedicate this class to Diraj, and he would come in. And it started at him at that age, and as it went through, it get younger and younger, until at the end of the week, it was just this light. It was just energy. I guess it worked his way through the bardo or whatever happens. And I asked him for a healing system. You know, I'd say, oh, I'd like a present, I'd like a healing system. Little did I know what was going to happen. And I already had Lyme's disease without knowing it. And my health just plummeted after that. And my Tai Chi classes, I said I wanted something to go with Tai Chi. And as soon as I'd done that, my Tai Chi classes disintegrated. I became nearly dead. And a few years later, on my deathbed, holographic breathing started, and I think maybe I had to go to the other side to actually collect it. It was coming from the other side, and I had to nearly die because I didn't have Lyme's disease. I just said, whatever it is, take me, but I don't want to die. And it was like going to the other side. And then after that, the holographic breathing came through. Now, I don't know if I'm channeling Dheeraj in this. From what I'm told, not so, but I think it is part of the mix, and the energies that coming in, maybe they're a similar thing to what he channeled, but I think it's a universal energy system that we're learning here. And I'm learning it, because it's an ever-going adventure. And when I teach these groups, the energy that comes in is awesome for me. I mean, I feel completely, it's coming in at the minute. It knocks me out, makes it hard to speak. Or make any sense. But it feels like an awesome privilege, one, to be given holographic breathing, and two, for these life-changing energies to come in and start teaching and using me or being with me and coming down into this group that's around the whole world. And it's the perfect environment for me teaching this in webinars. It seems to come through in a very easy way. I was fine with Tai Chi was a great medium for me to teach. Hands-on healing and cranial wasn't so easy. I much better work at a distance rather than putting my hands on people. But I did that for a long time. But something with the distance that Zoom gives just really allows me to channel, really allows me to let those energies come in. Whether those energies teach you, I don't know. Maybe those particular energies come to me and I speak in a particular way, and whatever in the ether comes through. Now, you may be connecting to those, or you may just be connecting to a deeper place in yourself and your own channels. So you're not like dependent on me or my channels. You connect to your own channels who will also understand the work and maybe have their own perspective on what we're doing. So it becomes tailored for everyone. And when I first got holographic breathing, what was quite interesting to me, because I'd done 2 cranial trainings, I'd done a lot of work cranially, and it was very interesting that in holographic breathing it seemed to set off this fairly unique thing where the whole face was breathing, and then that would move through the cranium, that would move through the body and spread through the whole body in a physical way. And it will connect to all of the organs the way that I was used to. So it was the same as cranial sacral therapy. It gave the same breathing motion as cranial sacral therapy. And it seemed to connect into what was called the Tibetan pulsing that Dheeraj taught in a similar. So it's very interesting that for me it connected exactly into those 2 things, but also because I knew quite intimately the cranial work, I was very aware how these energies from the face were entering into the brain. There was a physical movement, there was an energetic movement, and there's also the generation and the transmission through the nerves. And the face is different to the rest of the body as far as the nerves go. Maybe not so different to the organs, because there's cranial nerves and they all come out of the central brain complex. For everything else in the body, the nerves are coming out of the spine, and even for the organs, they're coming out of the spine. The vagus nerve will feed all the organs, but they're also connecting to the spine. But the face is higher, so it's not connecting to the spine, it's all connecting directly into what I call the central brain complex. And I'm not 100% sure about what the central brain complex is, but it includes the brain stem. I don't particularly like to use that name because it's known as the reptilian brain or something like that, but it's ancient. And it includes the third eye. It's what I include as the central brain complex. And it includes the ventricles, and it also includes I've forgotten the name, the bit between the two, the corpus callosum, the nerves going between the two halves of the brain are right on the top. It's everything that is central. So this information, movement, energy is transferring into the very central part of the brain. And everything goes through the central brain complex. Everything, all the brain, all the different sides of the brain talk to the different parts of the brain through it. All of that connects through the whole nervous system and connects through the whole body. So it's like the communication hub in the center of everything. And this movement and breathing in the face is connecting directly into that. So it's a way kind of hacking into or accessing the very center of your anatomy, very center of your energetic system and the spiritual system, because at the top of it, the thalamus, this is the third eye. So, thought of as the seat of consciousness and also your connection to the higher self. So you've got the whole spiritual energies coming into that complex. You've got all of the information from all parts of the brain mirrored and part of that. Then it comes down through the spine, goes to every organ, every part of the body, every cell. So holographic breathing is just perfectly designed. Everything about it is perfectly designed. So there's the physical there. It relates directly to the physical of everything. It will you've got the whole emotional body in the central brain complex as well. You've got the intellectual complex of it connecting and joining up through the whole brain. You've got the spiritual connection coming in, and the breath. So it kind of brings it all together. And I think that's why it becomes possible to access every cell, to access every energies. And then everything is mirrored. All the energies, I've gone through lots of times the different energies, how they all relate in the face, how they all relate in the cranium, how they relate through the torso, the pelvis. It's like mirrors, the same energies, the same 7 energy systems mirrored over and over. And you've got the same thing in the central brain complex, which is what we're working with as part of the lung energies. The lung circuit, the lungs, the colon. This is the sideways breathing. Then that connects into the rectum and the sacrum, and that ignites the Kundalini. That comes directly up into the brain and lights up this whole central brain complex, and that is kind of that circuit. So we're working with the central brain complex as the highest point in that circuit, and it's got an, the rectum to the central brain complex is an instant connection. The central brain complex to the higher energies is also, or the higher self, whatever you want to call that, is also an instant connection. So it's a very good area for channeling, and I think it just goes to a place we don't know about, because it's just beyond our comprehension. And as it transverses through the central brain complex, it gets to a certain height, and it takes you out of the intellect. We're not, we're working from this intellectual being or thoughts. Takes you out of that reality of thought and into this more universal energy. So that aspect of it seems important to me for the human race. Is I don't know that we get out of our predicament without spiritual help and without spiritual transformation. And they're telling me to include the earth in that. There's the same mirror, these energies open in a particular way, and there's this magic and grounding that starts rising from the earth. Those same energies are kind of mutable and start rising up through us as a healing. So I think what is available here is not quantifiable, and where we're going with it, I have no idea, because it's not visionable, it's not understandable. And if we're going to move forwards as a race, I think it's into an arena that we don't yet understand. But I can't believe it's only me. I can't believe that it's only me working with these particular things. My guess is that all around the planet there are channels, or hopefully, you can't hope, haven't you? Channels bringing in intelligence at the moment, and the courage to let go of our lives as we hold them, let go of our reality as we hold it, to embrace something new. And I got no idea if it will work, and I got no idea, I'm blind on that as well. I'm not arrived there and know where you're going. I just get off on the energies. I get off in it, going into this no mind state where I really don't know what's happening, but there's immense freedom. It's a bit like insanity when the mind lets go. It's a bit like letting yourself be consciously lose your mind. And I've come to quite enjoy that space. I was terrifying when my Kundalini first started rising, but now I quite enjoy that space. Without it, I would have died. You know, something about that space and allowing yourself to be consciously insane or consciously lose your marbles takes a repression off the body. It takes all of the structures of the mind that hold our body, it takes it away, so we're not holding ourselves with the mind. We're no longer held by the mind, and we have no control. You lose control at the same time. But luckily, your health seems to get a lot better, or mine has done, in that space. Losing the control of my mind has helped me physically kind of clear the Lyme's disease. I don't even know if I've still got it, but I'm not ill like I used to be. It does a huge amount of damage, but I seem to be fine these days. You know, I don't have masses of energy, but more and more. And I'm 25 years older than when I first got Lyme disease, so I've aged a bit in the time. So anyway, that is what we're going to be working with. And I'll show you a couple of pictures of the central brain complex. So here it is without the ventricles, and the cerebellum here isn't the central brain complex, it's just this central column. The face is here, and all of the nerves from the face, they're all coming in. I think there are 12, I'm not sure how many, 12, 13 nerves, and they all come in at different points into this central brain complex. Now that is thought that this is like the pelvis and legs and abdomen. It's the pons here, like the lungs and the heart. Then the midbrain here is like the neck, and then this is the head. So it makes this little person. And the head, the optic nerve, comes to the eyes here. So the head of the body is relating to the head of the face, and they all match with the different energies and different areas of the face. So you get this energetic thing and breathing motion coming here, and it's at the same time feeding into that. And this, it's not like we do this first. It's hard to say what comes first, but the nerves are making the face move. So in a way you think, oh, we're breathing and this is moving and that is affecting that. The other way around, the nerves are coming from here that actually activate the whole breathing, and the energies are just moving backwards and forth. And I think a holographic breathing comes in at a different level. So who says that is first? Maybe the spiritual energies come in, activates that, goes through that. The earth energies come up through the spine into this area, and they're also mirrored. It's holographic, it's fractile, so everything mirrors everything. So it kind of starts. But this is a confluence. It all comes together in that area. So if you think about this, see, they call that the brainstem. I really don't like that. And if you think of that without the thalamus, that's quite a low ancient energy. But as soon as you put the head on, then it's got this spirituality. So rather than oh, that's the brainstem and that's the thalamus, it's a person with all levels of energy, and the higher energies are coming in here and feeding this, and the earth energies are rising, feeding the higher energies and going home. So this is a person. You've got the corpus callosum coming across here. Now, it also includes the ventricles. And as soon as you put the ventricles on, the energies change. I was surprised. I painted this picture first. And I thought, oh, well, there we have the brain stem, because I wanted a see-through picture, or the central, I called it the brain stem and thalamus. I call it the central brain complex. So I painted that and thought, oh, well, that's interesting. Let's put the ventricles on and see what they... And as soon as I did, the whole energy changed. Can you... It's upside down. See, that's why it was energy change, because it was actually upside down. Can you see the difference in the energies, how that brings it to life by having the lateral ventricles around it and the ventricle in the middle? So you see how that kind of got a life, and it's like a little bird, and how different it feels to that. I can see just a massive energetic difference there. This is one level, and then you add the ventricles, and then you've kind of got a different animal. So it's not just the brain stem, it's not just the brain stem and the thalamus, it's the brain stem, the thalamus and the ventricles, and it's the corpus callosum. And there it is within the brain. Again, you've got the face here. Here it is from the front. This is two-dimensional here, but the thalamus stretches out back, and these lateral ventricles are attached to the thalamus all the way around. This is in the middle of the thalamus. This is in the middle of the pons and medulla oblongata, the third ventricle. So these are the ventricles. The corpus callosum is here, across the top. And many people think of the corpus callosum as kind of, oh, it's connecting the two halves of the brain, or there's connective tissue in there. The corpus callosum is just made of myelinated nerve fibers. It's nothing else. It's just millions or billions of myelinated nerve fibers joining both halves of the brain, and it sits on the top of here. And then you've got the two hemispheres of the brain, but you've got this release directly up to the third eye, and you've got the face coming down here, and all the nerves from this whole area going back and forth between that area in the face, and that's all they go to. There's the vagus nerve coming down, which I think is going into the tongue and a few things and different organs, but there's very few of those nerves that go anywhere else other than the face. It includes the ears, but I include that as part of it. So there's this very special relationship between the face, the brain, and this central organizing principle in the middle that just activates this breathing. Because I didn't learn holographic breathing or work it out or try different things. This blinding light came down, drove through my teeth and into the jaw. It felt like the teeth were coming out of their sockets. The jaw just lit up bright red, and it just started. It started this memory. So it's an activation of something that encompasses everything. And I think it'll go far beyond me. And I think it's part of the coming human race. I can't see how we can get worse than we are. So I'm hoping we're going to evolve. It'd be hard to go backwards. I mean, we're not even up with nature. You know, nature won't go around killing things it doesn't need to kill, doesn't pollute everything, is in balance. The only thing that isn't in balance is mankind. We think of ourselves as having reign over the animals and over nature. It would be a jolly good thing if nature had a reign over us. And it is going to rain on us pretty hard as the weather gets worse, I'm sure. Alright, so I will describe it. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of depth. I thought the talk was going to be a much quicker thing, but I will just so we prep it, because not everybody's done the energies of the face. And I will describe them in the meditation. I have to describe them slowly, because as I'm going through them, I feel it hitting on the group, and I have to go at a speed that is working. You can feel your own central brain complex. If you feel behind your ears, there's this bone dropping down, the mastoid process. If you put your thumb on the mastoid process, and then you come up kind of back from the eyes to the top of the ears, top front of the ears, that is the center of the thalamus. And if you rise up a bit above the level of the eyes, you've got the top of the thalamus, and you've got the corpus callosum. So it's that kind of length directly. You've got the very base of it, this where your thumbs are on the mastoid process, directly between that you've got the medulla oblongata changing into the spinal cord, coming out through the base of the cranium there. So that is the very base of it, and it's round top front of the ears. You've got the thalamus, and then it's quite big, it will go up a bit. Then on top of the thalamus you've got the corpus callosum joining both sides of the cerebrum, and all of the nerves, the nerve tracts from the cerebrum, they don't come into the thalamus as such. They come together into what's called the midbrain, just below the thalamus. So from the front, this is the thalamus, the two halves of the thalamus. They're coming, all the different things, they're coming into the midbrain here. And then this is it's not, I mean, it doesn't look like it's meant to look at. It's a painting, I'm not brilliant. But this is the cerebrum, and the pons here at the front, which is the heart and lungs. This is the start of all of the nerve fibers or tracts that come out and become the two halves of the cerebellum at the back. So what you have is you have the cerebrum in two halves. We haven't just got one brain, you've got two hemispheres of your brain here. You've got the thalamus coming up into it. There's a central central membrane called the tentorium, and then the thalamus comes up through that. So it's coming up into these two hemispheres of the brain. Across the top of the thalamus you've got the corpus callosum, and all of these nerve tracts releasing back and forth through the corpus callosum, and then all of the nerve tracts coming down below the thalamus and into the midbrain, and that is connecting up and down through the spine. Then you come down a bit, and then you've got the pons, which is opening as the start of all of those nerve tracts coming into the cerebellum. So this is all feeding back and forth into this central brain complex. And then at the front of it, all different layers, into the thalamus, into the midbrain, into the pons, into the medulla oblongata. You've got all of the nerves that go back and forth, and they all fit directly into that. The only ones that may not be considered the face, I include it in the whole thing, directly coming out from the sides of the pons. It's going into the ears. It's the nerves coming into the auditory canal, the different hearing, different things that happen in the ear. So that's coming out sideways. And that all feeds together.